Hey guys, it's Kaz here, and today I am finally doing my March wrap up. It's been a while. I've been busy, but we're here. So in March I participated in the Roll of Reads Readathon, and these are the things I read for the readathon. So first of all, I read How It All Blew Up by Arvin Armadi. This one is about a boy who is blackmailed. He's gay. He's blackmailed by a guy at school. So before the guy at school can tell his parents, which is what he said he's going to do, he flies off. Well, first he just leaves, and then he's like, you know what, I'm just going to fly to Italy for no reason. And then that's what he does. And then it's just about him living his life, trying to figure out what he should be doing, but also meeting new people, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It's not one that's going to stay with me forever and it's going to be like in my memory, but while I was reading it, I enjoyed it. I heard loads of people talking about the nipple scene. I totally forgot I heard people talking about that. And then the first time it's mentioned in here, like, oh, something happens, but I'm not going to tell you yet. I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing apparently. And when it happened, I mean, I googled it to see if it's even physically possible. I don't think I actually got a specific yes or no. But yeah, it was weird, but I don't hate it as much as a lot of other people do. And oh my god, I've got something in my eye and it's really annoying me. So this was fine. I'm gonna go and look in my eye and then I'll be back with the next book. Okay, I think I got what it was, and hopefully I didn't change the lighting too much. But anyway, the next thing I read was Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. This is the second book in this series. Cassidy Blake, I think that's what it's called. This is a middle grade series about a girl who was very close to death, was saved, and then because of that she has a power to be able to see ghosts. Her parents are ghost hunters and they go around doing like a most haunted, if you've seen that, if you're English, or that sort of thing. And each book they're in a different place and they're going around all the haunted locations and doing the filming and stuff, but what her parents don't realise is that she's actually seeing the real ghosts and trying to save them or trying to escape from them or trying to do various different things. And in this one they are in Paris, so obviously there's loads of places they can go. There's the catacombs, big one, many dead bodies down there, and graveyards and old buildings and that sort of stuff. And yeah, I enjoyed it. The sort of main ghost thing is really quite different from the first book, so that was quite good to read. I feel like this is a series that could just go on forever. They could just go to a different place all over the world. It probably is what's going to happen. I don't know if Victoria Schwab has a set amount of books in mind or not. But yeah, I thought this was a good one. I enjoyed it. I liked the ghost. I liked what they were trying to do with the ghost. I liked some more of the backstory with Cassidy and her best friend who also happens to be a ghost. So we learnt more about that. And yeah, it was a good time. After that, I finally finished Preacher. This is volume 9, the last volume in Preacher. I was putting it off because I really like this series and I didn't want it to end because then it was ending. But also I didn't know how it was going to be able to end because I felt like so much needed to be wrapped up from volume 8 and there's only one volume left. So I was like, oh, what if they ruin the end? They didn't ruin the end. It was very good. I really enjoyed the way all the different characters and the different storylines crossed and came together in this one. And I can't really see any other way for it to have gone. So it was good. And I can't really talk about this much because again, it's the last book. It's number 9. So it would be spoiler woilers. But this series in general is about Jesse Custer, who gets the thing that has a word of God inside him, and it's about him and his girlfriend and a vampire dude that they just happen to meet, but also loads of other characters come in throughout this series and they all have different storylines and stuff. And yes, I very much enjoyed it. And now I've finished it. At some point, probably not this year, but at some point I can read all of them all in one go, back to back to back, because I think it's really good to read sort of comics and graphic novels and manga and that sort of thing together, because then you get the storyline, you don't forget anything about anything, which is why I really enjoyed reading Saga and the whole flipping compendium thing. So yeah, hopefully eventually I'll read that and I'll just show you the artwork, because that's kind of thing I do when I'm talking about these. Hopefully none that will be spoilers. But this is a sort of artwork in Preacher. And yeah, can't really talk much more about it, but I very much enjoyed it, and I think it was a good ending. I should probably finally get around to actually watching the TV show now, because I've only seen season 1 and I love Joe Gilgan, so I have no idea why I've not watched the rest of it. Maybe I should at some point. We're about halfway through, so let's nip on over to a message from one of the Sponny ones, and then I shall be back with the rest of the books. Hello, lovely. This is a big slipper, and this is a big boy in the slipper. Good boy. Is that comfortable? So next up, this one was not on my TBR, but I read Shackleton's Boat Journey by F.A. Wordsley. So basically, Endurance, which was Shackleton's ship, was found at the bottom of the sea. It was like a bajillion miles down. They found the wreckage. It was a big thing last month. I'm sure you might have heard about it on the news or whatever. And then because of that, I was just really wanted to read a book about Shackleton. I do have another one, but it's like this big, and I thought that's a lot. So I'll go with the little thin nice one. Technically, this doesn't even talk about Endurance. This is a very concise, just like snippet of the journey that Shackleton and his men went on. Endurance has already been trapped in the ice, it's already gone. This starts smack bang, like they're already in the little boats trying to get to safety and get to some sort of land to be able to stop rowing. And this just tells the story between there and them getting help and being able to not be trapped or die or drown. So it's really good. The one thing I didn't know 100% is there's quite a lot of nautical and sea language in here, so something went over my head. Like, they're talking about the painter. They was talking about the painter, and in my mind I was just like, yeah, there's a dude and he's just painting the boats. I still don't know what a painter is. I could probably just Google it and be like, hey, what does a painter mean? But when you're on a boat. But I haven't. I probably should, really. But just certain words, I was like, not actually sure what you're going on about, but I also am very much enjoying this. Also, F.A. Wordsley was the captain of the ship, so he wrote this. He experienced it all as well. And it's just really good, really fast paced. Like I say, it like throws you straight into the story halfway through. Like, all of the start of it's already happened, and they're already in the emergency bit where they need to figure stuff out. I feel like I've talked about this and you actually don't know what it's about. So basically, on Shackleton's journey, they were in a massive boat called Endurance, and he got stuck in the ice and eventually was broken and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And then they had 3 boats, and all the men on the big boat had to get on the little boats, and they had to try and find some sort of land or ice, because you're more likely going to find a bit of ice to set your tent on rather than a bit of actual land. And yeah, Shackleton was a really good leader. All of his men survived. This goes through quite a lot of time, so they all get together, they're all rowing for quite a while, and they find a place, and then a few of them go off and then go on an expedition across ice caps and stuff to try and find a whaling thing, like at the other side of the island, to try and find real people that can get their boat round. And then when they finally found people, it took a while to get the boat round, so they didn't know whether the other people were still alive because they'd been there for ages. But everyone survived. It was really good, and Shackleton just seems like a really good dude. So yeah, it was good. After that, I read Wild Sky by Zaya Feli. This is a standalone, and it's set in a world where there's dragons, as you can probably tell by the front cover. And it was really good. I loved the dragons and the way that they're really cute. So in the place that we're in, they have a sky guard where they ride dragons around and make sure nobody's doing bad stuff, or they'll save themselves from the wild dragons. And because you see the dragons up close and personal, it's really cute. Like the young ones or the ones that are friends with people, the way they're explained and talked about in here, it's like they're little puppies, and it's really cute. They'll nuzzle into their handler, and it's just really sweet and lovely and cute, and they're playful and also naughty, and I love it because dragons are cute. And then they're also like that when they're like 17 foot tall. They're still cute and nuzzly and want a cuddle and want belly rubs. But also, there is a storyline in here that I would say is probably spoilers, so I'm not going to say what it is, but wild dragons have started attacking for some reason, but nobody knows why, and they're trying to figure that out. And also, our main character used to be in the Skyguard, but like, what was it, 4 or 5 years previous, there was this big clash between some of the people in there. There were rebels that went against the main people, and they all had fights, and then they had like massive dragon fights, and some of them died. And the main character, Torin, his dragon was killed, and he was also injured, so he walks with a limp and he has a really bad leg. And it was good because the rep, he was always, you know, his leg was always there, being a bit annoying. And then the other main character, Calais, has come from a different part of the world over here to try and just expand. And he comes from a part of the world where dragons can just roam freely, and they don't have guards, and they don't have people that own the dragons. They just, if they want to be friends with you, they will. If they don't, they don't. You don't own them. And he also has a condition where he faints and he will black out, and then he'll be really tired for a while. So it's really good, the health rep, the disability rep in here, just sprinkled in. Also LGBT, because it's ZFLA, both of them like each other. That's the one thing about the book. ZFLA's other books that are really, well, first of all, they're serious, so there's more space to be able to be this. That's the door. Yeah, ZFLA's other books have space to have slow burn romances in, and she's the queen of slow burn. And the other two series are just really good because it's slow burn, and that is the only thing that I slightly would have wanted different in here. I felt like the two characters liked each other too quickly, but I understand because it's like one book, but also as soon as each of us saw each other, they were like, ooh, which is fine. People look at somebody and think, oh, they're pretty, but I like it when they just don't even look at each other for like the first 2 books, like her other series. And then after that, like the third book, they're like, we've known each other for a while now we like each other. So I like that more, but also it was fine, but I would have liked it a little bit slower. Also, for people that like different repping books, there's a trans character in here, and they're only mentioned twice just randomly in passing, and then never again. Like one time they just mention, they say something like, oh, I've known that since before my dad knew I was a girl, or something like that. And I was like, oh, it's a trans character. And that's the only time. And then one other time they were talking about their partner, and they said he doesn't even mind that I don't have the right bits. And that's literally, those 2 lines are the only things that are said in here. But it's nice to have that rep and it not be like thrown in your face and the main thing about them, because it's not. It's nothing about her. She's one of the Skyguard, and she has her own storylines and stuff. So yeah, it was good. Dragons and stuff. The main dragon, the main 2 dragons, I loved them. They were so good. After that, I read Boy Meets Ghoul by Birdie Milano. This one was because I had a prompt where I had to borrow a book. So I went to the library. I wanted to read the last book in the Lock and Key series, but they didn't have it. So I was just like, give me something else that's going to be kind of quick and easy to read. And I saw this one, and I do actually own the first book in this series. I didn't even know it was a series, and I saw it and I was like, oh cool, I'll read that then. So this is like younger end YA, and it's about this boy, and well, in the first book he's on holiday with his parents and his brother, and he's in like a caravan park and he hates it, and then he fancies this boy, but then also there's this other boy, but he doesn't know who they are, and they keep crossing wires and stuff, and they don't know, and then stuff happens. And then in this book it's like kind of almost the opposite in the place, because in the first one he was in a caravan park and he hated it, and in this one he's in this really fancy hotel because of reasons. And then yeah, it was, I don't think it was as good as the first one, just because the first one had that nice little sort of kind of mystery going through it, but I did enjoy this one. It was sweet. It's mainly about liking people. Like, they're in a hotel, he's in this football camp, and there's a boy there from his school that he's had a crush on for ages, but he's in a long distance relationship with the boy from the first book, so he's like, am I allowed to even say that I used to like this boy? Am I allowed to still look at him and think he's cute? So it was that sort of thing. It was random. And also there was a bit of an overarching story with a hamster, which is quite funny because the first book's called Boy Meets Hamster. His brother's got a hamster, it goes missing, and then they're all trying to do that stuff. So yeah, it's a young YA book, so it's really quick and simple to read. The storyline's not like amazingly complex or anything like that. There's this whole thing about a band that him and his best friend really like, and they're in the same hotel as them. And I did think it was funny though, because the band that they like is like death metal or something. I was like, you know what, you don't see that very often in books. Normally it's a pop band, but in here they were like, oh yeah, the screamy metal band, the death metal. It's like, it's quite nice to see something a bit different. But yeah, it was fine, it was alright, I enjoyed it. Let's move on to the last book I read. So finally I read Scott and Armstrong by Roland Huntford, and I'm sorry I've already prattled on about Polar Expedition once already, but this is a different one, so deal with it. So yeah, this is about the race to the South Pole between these two, and I did know bits and pieces about both, but I didn't know the main bulk of both. And when this first started off, I felt like Roland Huntford was really, the way he wrote about Captain Scott was very emotional. Like, he's an imbecile, and when I was reading it at the beginning I was like, shouldn't you be a little bit more impartial? But then I read about how Captain Scott did his expedition, how he treated people, how he just totally disregarded everything about everything, and I'm like, you know what, he is an imbecile. Well, he was an imbecile. So I understood after a while why Roland Huntford was talking about him like he's a bit of an idiot, because he was. But it's kind of weird though, because when this happened, so Captain Scott is from England, Roald Armstrong is Norwegian, and Scott was going to try and be the first person to go to the South Pole. Also Shackleton was in this for a while, so that was cool. This era of polar expeditions are really fun to read about because it all happened really close together. Also Nansen is in here, talking to both of them, trying to help both of them with their polar expedition. Fridtjof Nansen was a really big, important figure in polar expeditions. So yeah, he was in here, Shackleton was in here, it was a fun time. But yeah, Captain Scott was gonna go to the South Pole. Armstrong wanted to go to the North Pole, but then some Americans said that they'd already been there, so he was like, well, might as well go to the South Pole, but also I'm going to keep it quiet because I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to step on his toes until I'm out there stepping on his toes. So the Norwegian way of things, they live in a really cold climate, they understand skis, they understand snow, they understand treating people nicely. The English, upper class, they just don't like to treat people nicely anyway. No shade, but also all the shade. Navy guy, it was very much about, I'll tell you what you have to do and I don't want any input from any of you other people on the expedition. Whereas Armstrong is very much treat everybody equally. He wants everyone to be able to be doing well, and he wants to treat people with respect and stuff. So just from the get-go on that, they were both very, very different. Like, Scott gave people instructions and they weren't allowed to go anywhere away from them instructions, and then some of them were so complex. It's like, tell somebody to do something like 4 times a different thing, and then they're like, I don't know which one I'm meant to be doing. And that is the reason that Armstrong won the race to the South Pole and survived, and Captain Scott died in a tent with his other expedition followers about 10 miles from one of his food depots. And they were in the tent for like 10 days at least, because they were writing stuff in diaries, so it's like crazy. They just sort of gave up. But also they probably had scurvy, they had really bad food. His expedition was so badly run. He wouldn't use skis because he didn't know how to and he wouldn't learn. He didn't want to use dogs, even though every other expedition that was successful used dogs. He wanted to man-haul, which means like the men pulling all of the stuff that they need, whereas with dogs they take up a lot of the things that you have to carry, so you're not exerting so much energy. In Scott's expedition he would make them walk for like 18 hours, whereas in Armstrong he's like, right, we're doing 15 miles a day, boom, it will happen in like maybe 6 hours as a normal amount, and then camp and chill out and get enough sleep and get enough food. The amount of food that they both brought was just so incredibly different. I've tabbed 2 things, I can't remember, I think one of them's about the food, let me just have a look. So Armstrong had 3 or 4 times as much paraffin as he needed. He allowed 1 day in 4 for rest and bad weather, whereas Scott just thought that he would get to the pole and didn't account for the fact that some days you're not going to be able to do anything because it's going to be freezing and cold and windy and horrible. He also obviously didn't manhaul, Armstrong didn't. And the amount of food that they took, so Scott took 1 ton of food and had 17 people in his party, and Armstrong took 3 tons of food and had 5 people in his party, so he had 10 times as much food and fuel, and he stacked out his food in loads of depots, so there'll be like, do one and then however many miles in front do another one, and then for a long while, whereas Scott pretty much just dumped it all in one pile and then was like, oh, we'll have to just find that, and there was no margin for any days. Like if his depot was like 10 days away, he had food for 10 days to get there, and after that it's like, unlucky, you're gonna go hungry, you're gonna die in a tent, and he did. So yeah, very differently run expeditions. And also when it all happened, Armstrong wasn't, he didn't have a personality that people could warm to. He was very much just like, yeah, I did it, normal. Whereas Scott was very wordy, he wrote a book, he wrote loads of letters, so he died like a martyr, so everyone thought he was amazing, and they disregarded Armstrong, also thought he was stepping on his toes because he didn't tell anyone he was going to go to the South Pole. So there was this big thing, everyone really loved Scott and they would say nothing bad about him for a long time, which is probably, this book probably was a little bit scandalous when it came out, to be fair, because a lot of the things that happened in Scott's expedition were purposefully left out of his book, and they didn't tell people all the bad ways, and all the people in his party that did survive, that didn't go on the expedition, like weren't allowed to talk about how bad it was, kind of thing. So yeah, even to the point where people were saying that, oh, Armstrong only won because he had it really easy. He didn't. They had the same sort of weather. He just wore skis and wasn't scared of a bit of snow. So sometimes Scott would be stuck in a tent for 3 days saying, oh, this weather's horrible, this weather's horrific, whereas Armstrong would still do his 15 miles that day because it's like, it's just a bit of snow in it, it's fine. So yeah, I feel like I can go on more, but nobody actually cares, that's the thing. There's the book on the floor, that's how much nobody cares. So I won't. Go on about it, but yeah, it was really good, it was really interesting. There was a lot more about both of the expeditions that nobody cares about that I'm not going to talk about, and how differently they were run, and yeah, it's madness. Like, Scott had about 3 years before the expedition, but he didn't try out any of his stuff, and he didn't, so he got there and loads of things failed. He took ponies instead of dogs, whereas dogs can run on the snow fine, dogs can eat other dogs when dogs die. I know it sounds bad, but they can't. And ponies, there's literally nothing in the South Pole that ponies can eat, so they have to take all the food, and also they're so heavy that the hooves just go through the snow, and they're not very good at hauling stuff in the South Pole. His clothes, he didn't wear any fur, he didn't take any fur clothes because he wanted to do it the English way. He was like, I'm not doing anything that's not English. It's so stupid. And yeah, I told you I shut up, but I didn't. I'm going to shut up now. I read that. That was the last book I read. My camera's been flashing for a while, so it's going to die soon. So yeah, let me know down below what you read in March, if you've read any of these, if any sound interesting. If you're sick of me talking about polar stuff, I don't care, I'm going to carry on. But yeah, say some words down below, I shall reply. And yeah, if this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, then please check out some of my others. And if you continue to enjoy, then please subscribe, that'd be awesome. Anyway guys, I'll see you in a few days with another video. Bye.